Hey everyone, and welcome to the Climate Career Kit podcast. This is your host, Aishani Garg. If you are a high schooler looking for direction in climate change related careers, tune in to every episode for advice from the diverse leaders in climate jobs today and learn about new and exciting opportunities that you can pursue. Today's guest is Wendy Chou, Content and Outreach Senior Manager at Acterra. You're so excited to have you for the 17th episode of the Climate Career Kit. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thanks.
So to start us off, what is your role at Acterra and what does a day-to-day look like for you?
Great. So I work at a nonprofit, Acterra. So some people are not sure about the name, what that is. So we combine the word action, that's where the act comes from, and terra is like for the earth. So we are creating local solutions for a healthy planet. That's what Acterra does. And my role at Acterra, I kind of wear a lot of hats, which is typical at a small nonprofit where there isn't a lot of staff. So I do a little public relations. I prepare the twice a month newsletters. I do some work with social media and I write and edit blog posts. So all of this stuff falls under communicating with the public and helping folks understand how to live more sustainably through our programs. And so a day to day for me, every day is kind of different, but typically in the morning, we work remotely on Zoom mostly. So I'll start my day with a staff meeting. Everybody gets together and we kind of review what's going on for people, what things have we been making progress in, where could we use a little help. And then the rest of my day is kind of a combination of time working on my own projects, kind of having some time to write and think creatively, and then also lots of little group meetings, like maybe with one or two other little staff at a time, to talk about how we can work together, how we can collaborate. So, and then another thing that I do at Acterra is I coordinate the public lecture series, which is a series where we get interesting people to talk to the public about something related to climate change, sustainability, climate solutions, environmental justice. And so I get to help invite the speakers and I get to help moderate the question and answer period at the ends of these lectures. And we have about 6 of those lectures per year.
Wow. And so what drew you to this job specifically?
Well, it was really a combination of things. One of the things is that it allows me to be a bit of a generalist. So, some people are really driven to focus on one very specific thing, and I always preferred to kind of take the bigger view. I like to have sort of more of a synthesis view. Um, and this particular job, being in communications and outreach, is very much connected to lots of different aspects of Acterra. So I don't get pigeonholed into one thing. I get to work on kind of everything, which is exciting for me. Um, and then another thing is I really love writing. Kind of around college, I got really into reading books by John McPhee. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a journalist and author of nonfiction books, and he writes about everything. He first started writing about geology and he's written about sports, he's written about how to build canoes. I mean, he writes about anything, but he just makes it so interesting. And it's kind of the way I approach thinking about writing is that as long as you're telling a story, you can make anything really exciting and
Mhm.
interesting. So that's something that I like about communications. And then the other reason I got involved in this is because it was after uh, the election in 2016. And basically, at that point, there was a lot of stuff, a lot of negative pressures on the climate movement. There was a lot of, um, you know, it was being threatened essentially from the federal level. So that was a time when a lot of people in the climate movement really rallied and wanted to do more. So that's what drew me to it.
Yeah, of course. That makes a ton of sense. So what kind of work does Acterra do and how can teens get involved?
That's such a great question. So Acterra's been around for a long time, basically since 1970, and it's kind of changed over the years what it focuses on. But right now, it's really focused on what are some local solutions to the bigger problem of climate change. And so one thing that it does really well is I think it kind of focuses a lot of positive energy on what can you be doing in your own life. So some of the things that Acterra tries to help do is empower people with education to understand the links between, something as basic and mundane as what you're eating every day and how that connects to the bigger picture of climate change. Like the fact that if you actually reduce the amount of meat you're consuming, that is really helpful for producing less methane, for producing less carbon dioxide, for helping water as well. So we do a lot of educational programs. They might be workshops or events or film screenings, and we help people understand that they can make a difference. And it's not just like climate change is too big for us to work on. How teens can get involved. One of the really cool programs at Acterra is called Acterra's Student Ambassadors Program. And it's a way for high school students and college students to learn about the public comment process. So like when you attend a city council meeting or a public hearing or something, there's often an opportunity for the public to raise their hands and contribute to the dialogue. And so we help people learn, what kind of opportunities are out there for making comments, how to make an effective comment. And we bring in some guest speakers to help people learn, this is what an experienced advocate has to share with you.
Hmm.
These are the insights. So we have these public comment workshops once a month. They're on Zoom and they're the first Wednesday of every month. And if you want to know more, you can definitely, I would recommend looking on our website.
Yeah. And I'll put the website on my website next to this episode so any listeners can check that out.
Perfect.
So, what is the most exciting part about your job?
Wow. What is the most exciting part about my job? I think one of the exciting things is that when you get people interested in making a difference on climate, it can become a kind of contagious thing where you get a spark here, and then that leads to other people having their own moments of, revelation and then spreading. So we have a program through our Carl Knapp Go EV program. We're all about, getting people to transition away from gas powered vehicles to electric vehicles, which are really fun to use in addition to being awesome for the planet. So we have ambassadors, and these are volunteers from around the community, around the Bay Area, and they just kind of love talking about their EVs so much that we kind of get them to basically be our cheerleaders, and they bring their cars to events, they show them off, and you'd be surprised, but just having that little bit of, I won't call it peer pressure because that sounds like a negative term, but it's like the influence of knowing that somebody who's probably like a neighbor of yours is already doing this thing, and it makes the sort of barriers to it go down a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I like being part of this like activation energy of getting the people to just recognize that there's lots of cool things already happening and there's lots of solutions if people would just kind of learn about them.
Yeah, of course. So, what advice do you have for someone who wants to pursue an environmental career?
I would say that if you have some idea of an organization that you are interested in, you could try volunteering with them, because that's a really good way of getting to know the culture of the organization and getting to know the people. And I think that's really important to figure out, where do I fit in? It's kind of like a trial run, you can see what it's like. So you could maybe think about doing like a 6-month volunteer position at one place, and then, you could change it up and try a different path and see if that one works for you better. And then you can also learn about the industry at the same time. My other advice is definitely make use of informational interviews, because I did do that when I was looking for a job. Um, and that's just, any kind of way you can grow your network, whether it's on LinkedIn or just, talking with people, finding out more information. It's really good to do that sort of homework and research, to broaden your network, because that's where a lot of connections are made.
Kind of piggybacking off the last question, are there any resources or opportunities that you can direct high schoolers to who are interested in sustainable careers?
Right. So I do know that there are a lot of career fairs that take place, especially uh, nonprofits will do career fairs, universities will do career fairs. I definitely recommend talking to people at those. And I do recommend talking to people informally. you can usually arrange an informational interview. If you contact somebody at an organization, they'd usually be very willing to talk to you.
Well, I'm sure the Acterra Student Ambassador Program is also a great opportunity that you touched on earlier. So, all of these things will be on my website if any listeners are interested and want to check them out. And thank you so much for your time and your insights. I really appreciate it. And to all the listeners, make sure to tune in to the next episode of the Climate Career Kit.